listened to an interview between James Brown, who's a sportscaster, and a Harvard professor, talking about the history of it and what it means. And probably it feels like in our society today that it's needed more than ever. Understanding of people's heritage.
Definitely.
Freedom, heritage, and then progress. Birmingham and Alabama in general has a great history of baseball.
Yeah.
Now, we're a baseball podcast, but when we love to celebrate the history of baseball, you can't tell the history of baseball without going back, not just Major League history, but Negro League history, and then how they integrate. Reggie Jackson talked about being a player. He was from California, and when he was signed by the Oakland A's, he had to play in the South. He couldn't stay with his same teammates.
Mm-hmm.
He got very emotional last year on air talking about coming back to Rickwood Field and playing or broadcasting in the South, where he had never really experienced that level of racism when he's living in California.
Mm-hmm.
And it was eye-opening to him, and it scared the heck out of him. So
Yeah.
he gave a moving speech about that. And I think those things are important because we always have to remember we're not that far removed from those days, and we still have a ways to go.
I mean,
and that's what Juneteenth to me
50
means.
years. Yeah.
Here we are again, All Things Baseball Podcast. We appreciate you coming. I'm your host, John and
Johnny.
And, we haven't done one without an interview in a while, so or at least a couple, right? So we get a chance to talk about something that Bullfrog wants to hear that's in the background, if you can hear that. We're in a rural area in Alabama.
Yeah.
No, it's
before we start, actually, make sure you hit like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts at. Yeah. You can see we've worked pretty hard. Our producer, she put up these pictures for us, and
the set is immaculate. I mean, really, it's quite it's quite good.
It is.
So like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm. I have no idea what that means.
Say it every time.
Say it every time. It helps the algorithm. I really don't know what that means. We do, but this podcast, we're coming up on the anniversary of that historic game at Rickwood Field, celebrating Juneteenth.
Cardinals Giants. Yep.
Right, and so for it's our newest federal holiday, Juneteenth.
June 19th.
June 19th, and it celebrates freedom, heritage, and progress. Okay, as it pertains to
also highlights the systemic injustice that African Americans have faced over time, and how far they've come, as we're going to highlight in baseball. But I think that was a really big stepping stone, that game last year.
Major League Baseball gets a lot of things wrong.
Yeah.
They got that right. So they basically, for those of you who don't know or remember, last year, Major League Baseball was going to celebrate Juneteenth at Rickwood Field, the oldest baseball field in America. Had a lot of rich history with some of the greatest baseball players of all time who played there. Willie Mays, Satchel Paige, players like this from the Negro Leagues. And, of course, Willie Mays played in the Negro Leagues for a little while, but was one of the great Major League Baseball players of all time. So they decided to renovate the stadium and have a Major League Baseball game played there, and they brought in Barry Bonds and Reggie Jackson and Derek Jeter. And
the owner of the Kansas City Negro League Museum, he was a big part of the broadcast.
Yes.
And explained through the whole game, like, just these amazing players. Buck Leonard, Willie Mays was a part of the...
He just passed, he passed like 2 days before the game. They were going there to honor him in his, I always know how old Willie Mays is or was, because his birthday fell on the same day as my father's, your grandfather's, but 10 years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So I would always add 10. When I knew how old my dad was, I'd add 10 years. I know how old Willie Mays was. But when he passed just right before the game, they used it as an opportunity to, to remember him.
Yeah.
And it was very touching, very moving. We tried to get tickets, as you recall. I have a good friend who.
And we were there that previous week, visiting the Negro League Museum Southern. Am I saying that correctly?
It is the Negro League Southern Museum in
Right.
Birmingham. And what a time we had there.
Yeah, it was like almost connected to the Barons baseball field, Regents Field.
Right. It was very close.
It was like behind left field, probably like 50 yards from like left, like the bleachers.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah. And it's like, I think it was described as sort of a smaller, the smaller version of Kansas City Negro League Museum, which is the official, all-encompassing. Yeah, like it's
absolutely
has everything in there.
It was smaller, but Birmingham and Alabama in general has a great history of baseball.
Yeah.
Now, we're a baseball podcast, but when we love to celebrate the history of baseball, you can't tell the history of baseball without going back, not just Major League history, but Negro League history, and then how they integrated, right?
Yeah.
Which is a big part of, again, Juneteenth, freedom, progress, equality. Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. So there was a lot of, last year at the game, there was a lot of celebration and discussion about what he meant to
50 years,
our
right?
country and breaking the color barrier. Yeah, he broke it in 47.
Right, and this was right after, this was about 50 years after the inception or the barring of African Americans in baseball.
You mean the game last year?
No,
what do you mean 50 years?
I mean Jackie Robinson.
Oh.
From that time span of the inception of the Major League Baseball to
I got you. Yeah.
And not having African Americans in, Jackie Robinson was that first player.
Right. And I should say, we use the term African Americans. There were some great Black Latin players as well. And I don't like to leave them out because they were a big part of, the history of baseball too.
Definitely. And
so we could talk about Roberto Clemente. We could talk about some of the great Cuban players, Louis Tiant. The Black Latin player, when they came over and started playing in the major leagues, I mean, it really, I think, and my dad used to say this, and my grandfather was a huge Willie Mays fan. I mean, you're talking about my dad used to talk about, you talk about 1951 when Willie Mays came in, a few years after Jackie Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandfather, white Irish guy, God bless him, he was just a huge Willie Mays fan. He talked about him all the time, my dad said. He saw a great kid, young man, and a great player. And so I like to talk about the history of baseball and make sure that we understand our history. I'm rambling a little bit, but my point is we're here to celebrate and talk about this. The game last year, I thought they did a great job, right? Do you remember who won?
I think they did, yeah.
Do you remember who won?
Cardinals, right?
Cardinals won.
In a nail biter.
6-5 against the
Giants.
Yes. Very good. Very good. But like I said, MLB does a lot of things wrong. They did that game right, and I think they really brought to light a lot of the injustices. Reggie Jackson talked about being a player. He was from California, and when he was signed by the Oakland A's, he had to play in the South, and he was called, the N-word, and he was, he couldn't stay with his same teammates.
Mm-hmm.
He got very emotional last year on air talking about, coming back to Rickwood Field and playing or broadcasting in the South, where he had never really experienced that level of racism when he was living in California. Mm-hmm. And it was eye-opening to him, and it scared the heck out of him. So he gave a moving speech about that. And I think those things are important because we always have to remember we're not that far removed from those days, and we still have a ways to go.
I mean,
and that's what Juneteenth to me
50
means.
Years. Yeah.
That's what Juneteenth means to me as I researched it, and I spent more time because it's a pretty new federal holiday. But it means to me that you have to honor the freedom, the heritage, and the progress. And I think that's what I wanted to mention about that.
Definitely. And I mean, the game today has evolved so much. I mean, guys up and coming, Ellie De La Cruz, Denzel Clark, um, Tim Anderson comes to mind. I mean, there's just great Major League Baseball African American talent that is rising, and it continues to grow.
Yep.
There's just a lot of guys that are going to turn heads and continue to turn heads.
Well, you researched the RBI program. Why don't you mention that?
Yeah. So this is something that we were looking at that, you know, what are things that can help African American baseball culture, and what has helped it. And we found the RBI program that was actually started in 1989 by a former player named John Young. It is called I'm trying to find the acronym, Reviving Baseball in Inner Cities Program.
RBI.
Yeah,
Okay.
the program is to increase participation and interest in baseball and softball among underserved youth, particularly in inner city communities. It also emphasizes academic achievement, life skills development, and creating opportunities for college scholarships and professional careers. And reading more about it, after its inception, they started with a $50,000 startup fee, and they had gotten it into action, and it's grown considerably over time. And now Nike's partnered with them, and they put on events, clinics, in inner cities. And I think they have Team USA is partnered with them as well,
Right.
and some big names in the major league community. So it's really cool to see. I had also seen Eric Davis was a part of one of their first like clinics and when they opened. But
Right.
so yeah, it's definitely grown over time, and I think that program can definitely help to spread the word and get more players of African American descent to come into the game and help.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think if you follow the history of it and you study it, you know that some of the greatest baseball players of all time were African American and
come from like hard backgrounds, hardship.
Yeah, look at it here in Alabama. Two of the greatest players of all time are from Alabama: Willie Mays and Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
And you remember your doctor who worked on your arm, Dr. Dugas.
Shout out Dr. Dugas. Yeah.
Shout out to Dr. Dugas
down in Birmingham.
Down in Birmingham. He had, remember all the pictures he had on his wall? He had like WWE guys he had done surgery for.
Yeah.
Major league pitchers. So what did I ask him? I said, who's your favorite what's your favorite picture up there? And he just immediately went to the one with Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
He's like, greatest guy. I mean, just sweetest man, very soft spoken. Think about what he went through. He's another guy that played in the Negro leagues for a little while.
Yeah.
Not as long as Willie Mays. I think he was only there for a year, and then went to the major leagues. But did you know that Hank Aaron used to swing cross-handed?
No.
You know how you swing like this?
Yeah.
He swung like this until he got to the major leagues. Isn't that insane?
Why?
That's the way he was taught.
Wow.
Yeah. Next time you grab a bat, try to do it cross-handed.
What if it was just more comfortable like that until?
Well, he could hit either way. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
But he was from Mobile, and I think Willie Mays was from Birmingham.
Yeah.
Yeah. So two of the greatest players of all time. I mean, they're on the all-century team. They're like everybody's
can't
top
have center without right field with them.
Right. You really can't. Yeah. I mean, so anyway, we love to share it. We love to share our trips down to the museum. We're going to plan our trip to Kansas City.
Yeah.
I think in hopefully July. We'll keep everybody posted on that. But that's our plan right now is we'll have a little bit of time off in July, and we're going to try to get to Kansas City, which is about a 9 or 10 hour drive for us. But we've been talking about it for a year now. So
yeah, definitely time to plan it out, do it, take the trip, learn more about it. And we encourage all our listeners, if you have the opportunity, research more about Juneteenth, research more about just what it means. this holiday, and I mean, we're definitely learning more about it. And we want to help our community.
It's our newest federal holiday, and I feel like a lot of people don't really understand it.
Yeah,
And I was glad I knew what it was before we started this podcast, but I think spending some time and researching and listening to interviews. I listened to an interview between James Brown, who's a sportscaster and a Harvard professor, talking about the history of it and what it means. And probably it feels like in our society today that it's needed more than ever. Understanding of people's heritage,
definitely.
freedom, heritage, and then progress. You can't forget. That's what the Harvard professor said. You can't forget the progress part. This is the
Yeah.
most important thing, especially in today's society, that we understand that, that there are differences. There's nothing wrong with celebrating your heritage, and but we need more progress. So,
Definitely, yeah.
anyway, and I forgot to mention other places that that people could find history on African American baseball players and
The Jackie Robinson Museum in New York, as
New
we
York
just
City. Yeah,
recently found out after thinking about it for a minute.
right.
Yeah, showcasing Jackie Robinson's achievements. Like we said earlier, breaking into MLB baseball, Major League Baseball,
Right.
and just
Hank Aaron's hometown in Mobile,
right,
they have a museum.
correct,
Definitely suggest people to check that out if you're down in that area.
definitely.
Again, you're talking about
These guys had over
one of the top 5 greatest baseball players of all time. If you're a baseball fan, if you're watching this podcast and you love the topic and you want to learn more about the history of baseball, you cannot tell the history of baseball without the greatest players. And the greatest players of all time, many of them were African American and Latin black players. So I would say check those places out. That's going to be important. We'll put some links in. Where do we put those links?
Down in the description.
Down in the description. So we'll put some links there, the different museums that we already discussed. I think it's a good time to reflect on it this week. Again, when this drops, it'll be Juneteenth. So you'll be able to, if you're searching for stuff, you'll be able to look and see, and maybe you'll plan out your own trip.
Definitely, yeah.
Right?
Well, we encourage it.
Yeah.
Definitely making more time for
And
it.
we're going to do some more. We got some more podcasts coming up where we're going to do some more interviews with ball players. We've got a great story coming up that you're going to love. We're going to do maybe something around July 4th for like a little sports quiz.
Maybe sparklers. Bring the
sparklers. No sparklers in the house. No open-toe shoes.
Got it. I am wearing open-toed shoes, so that would be bad for me.
That would be bad for you.
Yeah.
But we will have some great new interviews and lots of stuff. So, so check us out. Like I said, like and subscribe. And what else you got to say to our wonderful viewers?
I think that's it. That wraps up another episode of All Things Baseball Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. And also, before we go, we moved all episodes now to Friday. I know we've been changing them around a little bit, but Fridays.
Every other week?
Every other week. Oh, yeah, we're doing them every other week, as I was just told. But Fridays, every other week. Tune in. We'll have them dropped around, I think, 7, 8 p.m., right?
Depending on where you live.
Yeah.
Right.
Depending on where you live, yeah. That's
Unless
true.
you're in California, then it's earlier.
Stay tuned.
All right. Thanks.